Okay. We good? Okay, Madam Speaker. We're going to start. We've got just 3 bills starting our House bills today. We're going to start with Speaker Jones on Senate Bill, House Bill 706. And Madam Speaker, if you want to come up and either could go to the podium or at the table, you could bring Jeremy Baker up with you as well. And again, we're on House Bill 706, and great to see you.
When you're short, you gotta get to take.
That's whatever you know, and you take the time you need to present the bill, and we'll then open it up for any questions. Okay.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Take my breath. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Hagan, who is not here right now, and members of the Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee. For the record, I'm Adrian Jones, Speaker Adrian Jones. I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 706, which would establish a $5 million statewide business facade improvement program. As the bill title suggests, this program will provide grants to assist businesses in rehabilitating their storefronts. While we have other state programs and provide support for storefronts on our main streets, this program will focus on those businesses that may not be directly in a historic downtown or in a building identified for historic preservation. Not every business that is important to a community is located on Main Street. Not every business that is important to a community is located in a historic building. Many of these businesses are in older commercial districts and business corridors that feel left behind in the cycle of development. Each of you can think of a small business in your district that could use this support. The kind of family-run business that still services thriving middle-class neighborhoods and families. The kind of business that holds communities and corridors together. Not all of these businesses are able to prioritize sprucing up their facades over other business needs. This program is meant to give those businesses that little bit of support, improve area property values, and make our communities more visually appealing to our residents and visitors. I think this is an important economic development tool to lift up older neighborhoods and communities. Along with other targeted resources, we can and should be investing these dollars in small, local businesses that need our help. HB 706 passed the House of Delegates with a bipartisan vote of 130-8. I appreciate your time and urge a favorable report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Jeremy, are you just here for questions, or you can add something or not? Okay, either way. Questions for Speaker Jones or for Jeremy Baker, who's there as well. Senator Caruso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Madam Speaker. It's good to see you, and thank you for this bill. Just one quick question. There was testimony from the Maryland Municipal League in favor, but I guess they want an amendment added, I guess, to be included. And I just didn't know if you had seen that, if it passed out with that, or if it just came over clean.
I wasn't aware of it unless you.
We'll go back and look.
You can find
Senator.
Could you put the mic? Yeah,
Oh.
sure.
So I'll go back and look, Senator. I think we were open to the amendment as it was discussed. I'm not sure if the committee put it on, but yeah.
Any additional questions for Speaker? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 706.
enjoy the rest of your hearing.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to next turn to my district mate, Delegate Chi. He's going to come up here on House Bill 144. And Delegate Chi, we do have 2 witnesses signed up virtually, so we're going to
okay.
cue them in.
That's good to know. I thought I would be the only one here.
So,
Although it's not a controversial bill, I hope.
okay, so you take the time you need to present House
Okay.
Bill 144.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And good afternoon, Senator Feldman, Chair of this significant critical committee. I'm very honored to appear before you and to be able to call you Chair Feldman. I'm Delegate Lily Chi here to present HB 144, which is real estate brokerage inactive licensees requirement after expiration. This is a very simple bill to close a loophole regarding reactivation of an inactive real estate brokerage license. So currently, a real estate license holder whose license has expired has 3 years to reinstate and renew the license. So at the end of the 3 years, the license holder can apply to change the status from active to inactive, which then extends the period for an extra 3 years. So in other words, a person could have 6 years of being out of practice before that person renews the license. So this bill basically wants to close that loophole because while the active license holders only have 3 years to reactivate their licenses, the inactive license holders can have up to 6 years to activate their license, reactivate their license. And that's what this bill does. This bill says an expired inactive licensee must reinstate their license within 3 years of last being active. So this bill is really about parity, about consumer protection and professional standards, because 6 years out of practice is a long time with all the market changes and so forth. And it's also unfair and confusing to the license holders. So that's why this bill is supported by the Department of Labor and the Maryland Realtors Association. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Washington.
Thank you, Delegate Key, for the bill. But I have a question. So if someone's license has been expired for up to 6 years, under current law, they could renew it without, I guess, taking a test, or would they still have to do the additional? Because there's continuing education credits that people have to.
Yeah, it's a good question. I believe they still have to go through, they still have to be in good standing. It's not like they have to apply all over again, go through all of the hoops. They still have to be in good community standing and some basic requirements, but they don't have to go through all of the elements as if they were applying for a brand new license.
I guess I'm trying to understand the bill. So so what would be the prohibition that you're putting
So right
in?
now, if you have an active license,
Yes.
you and that license expires, you
Right.
have 3 years to
Yes.
renew that
That
license,
is
to
right.
reinstate it, right? But someone can, at the end of 3 years, turn that status into inactive
Right.
license. So if you are expired inactive license holder, you have extra 3 years
Right.
in that inactive status.
Right.
The current law grants you extra 3 years in that inactive status.
Right.
So essentially you can stagger those 3 and 3 and become 6 years, which is unfair to the people who are active and expired.
So have there been problems with people who have reactivated their license after 6 years?
Apparently that is a loophole, but also it creates problem in terms of people's knowledge and capability to actually deliver competent services because they have been out of the practice for
Right.
many years.
Well, not necessarily, right? I mean, someone could be an agent or still working with a realtor. Maybe I had a child and so my license is inactive. And so, but I'm still working with someone. I could be doing any number of things, but I just don't want to invest because it's not just a license, right? There's all kinds of other fees attached to having a license. So then I decide at 6 kids off to school, I've been working in this other capacity. Now I want to reactivate my license. But you would be prohibiting under this.
That's right. This bill would say whether you're active or inactive, you have up to 3 years to reactivate your real estate brokerage license.
Okay. All right, I just think that I think the assumption, I wanted to know if there were lots of reports, et cetera, because the assumption, the person could be working in the field.
Yeah.
But just have a different status.
Right. And I can understand the scenario you are trying to describe. But I think 6 years is still a long time to be out of practice in order to get back to the field, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions for the sponsor, Delegate Chi? Okay, thank you, Delegate
Thank
Chi.
you.
We're going to go to the two virtual witnesses who have both signed up favorable. We're going to start with Gregory Morgan. Mr. Morgan, we can get you on here. See in the queue here? Okay. Okay, Mr. Morgan, we do see you. You've got, oh, I'm sorry. Well, what happened to Mr. Morgan? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Morgan, we're having some trouble with your video. Can you just say something? We can at least know if we can hear you.
Yeah, Chair Feldman, this is Gregory Morgan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you, but you know, you can still go ahead and give your testimony.
That's like it looks like the video is working and I see it go on and off. But anyway, that's fine. Gregory Morgan, I'm the Commissioner of the Division of Occupational Professional Licensing with the Maryland Department of Labor. I'd like to thank Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and this committee for allowing us to be here today. Delegate Chi, we appreciate you submitting this bill. And I think, and I know Director Kasnick of the Maryland Real Estate Commission is here as well. This bill, as Delegate Chi explained, it closes a loophole. And, you know, this year indicates what realtors would be missing if they weren't, you know, licensed and active and getting all the news and aware of things. There's probably a dozen bills in the General Assembly this year that impact the real estate industry. So 6 years is a long time to be away from the industry. And this simply closes that loophole, requires a person to subscribe to the required continuing education, and then can reinstate their license without having to take the test and all the educational requirements required for an original license. We appreciate the bill. We think it's a good bill. Senator Washington asked a question, and I know Delegate Ahrens asked it in the House. Since 2014, there's been 402 licensees that have used this loophole to reinstate licenses, and we think that's a significant amount. And it's really important that professionals in this industry are up to date on all the education, all the laws. So we support this and ask for a favorable report. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Senator Washington, good question for Mr. Morgan.
Thank you. So there are 400 individuals that have reactivated their license after 6 years. Have there
before 6 years, within a 6 year period?
Within
After
a
6
6
years, yes.
Right. So some have been 4 years, some have been 5 years, some have been 3 years and 6 months.
That is correct, Senator.
Right. Okay. So of those 400, have there been any charges or problems with those licensees?
You know what? I'll defer to Director Kasnick when he's going to come on after me, and he can answer those questions. He runs the oversees the Real Estate Commission.
All right. And then what would they would have to do now is if your license is inactive for 3 years, you have to take all of the real estate classes all over again. And
Not all of them. You would
Not
have to take the requirements. So licenses are renewed every 2 years. So you would have to fulfill the requirements for the first 2 years of inactivity. And then you're going to basically be renewing for whenever you do, your license renews for the other 2 year period. And you would have to take those requirements. And again, Director Kasnick can get a little more specific how many hours that is.
so if this person has 6 years, they would, prior to getting a license, they would have to take some classes, correct?
That is correct.
Right. So those classes are usually what's the latest in state law and all of that. And I know because I've done it. So okay, so I guess I don't understand, other than reducing the number of licensees overall, what this prohibition does, so. But thank you for the, yeah, thank
Sure.
you for the question.
Okay, any additional questions, Mr. Morgan? We do have Mr. Kaznick up next, so I want to defer. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for your testimony. You popped up on the screen, so now.
No worries.
Okay.
Well, I'm here for another bill, so.
Oh, okay, very good. So we're going to go to Mr. Michael Kaznick from the Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing. Mr. Kaznick, I'm going to pull you up here and okay, there you go, Mr. Kaznick. Okay, so you've got 2 minutes to your testimony, and you heard some of the questions from Senator Washington. Feel free to weave that into your testimony too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for considering this bill. As Delegate C said, it is aimed at basically making the two forms of licensees or statuses of licenses, exact. So if I'm a regular licensee and I'm doing regular real estate business on a recurring basis, and I let my license expire under current law, I have 3 years where I can come back to the Real Estate Commission after completing continuing education and say, please reinstate my license for a nominal fee. We go ahead and process that. For a licensee who's inactive, so they voluntarily tell the Real Estate Commission, I want to put my license on an active status. They can do that for up to 3 years. And then after that 3-year period, their license expires. And then again, as mentioned earlier, up to 3 years after that period, they can come back to us and say, please, I'd like to reinstate my license and come back into the field and actively participate in real estate brokerage services. So being away from the field for 6 years is quite a long time. And it's obviously longer than the law provides for an active licensee whose license expires. And, that just on its face gives, the message that, there are differences between the two, and also that there isn't as much of there's incongruity there. So I'll just leave it at that. As was asked, how many of those 402 licensees have had complaints against them? That would require going into each of those 402 and searching them in the way our current system. So it's not data that I have available. Certainly, if that is something that is a critical question, we can do that.
Yeah, you could finish your sentence there, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you. We can do that, but it will be quite labor intensive to get that data.
Okay. Any questions for our witness on this particular piece of legislation, HB 144? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Delegate Chi.
Thank you.
That concludes hearing on House Bill 144, which brings us to our final bill of the day, House Bill 463. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We have an add-on here. I apologize. No, we're good. Delegate Johnson, I'm sorry. We're good. Delegate Johnson, take all the time you need to explain House Bill 463.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate colleagues, for the record, my name is Delegate Andre Johnson. I'm here today in support of HB 463, which is a sunset extension for the State Board of Architects. HB 463 was amended a few years ago, the sunset extension from 10 years to 3 years, bringing it out of alignment with the standard practices of sunset extensions for the State Board overseen by the Maryland Department of Labor. What does the board do? The board issues permits to businesses practicing architecture. It investigates complaints against licensed and unlicensed practices, and it regulates those businesses. I ask that we adjust the sunset extension back to 10 years. I ask for a favorable review for HB 463. Today I have Commissioner Greg Morgan to answer any subject matter questions that you have in reference to this subject, in reference to the sunset extension. So, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Senate colleagues, thank you very much.
Okay, any questions for the sponsor, Senator Gallion?
Good afternoon, Delegate. Is this your first bill in the Senate?
Yes, it is.
Welcome to the Senate, my friend from Harford County.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Any additional question for Delegate Johnson before we go to the virtual witness from Department of Labor? Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to go to Gregory Morgan first, and then we have a second witness signed up also from the Department of Labor. So, Mr. Morgan, get you back on here. You're still there? Okay, there you go. Okay, you've got 2 minutes to weigh in on House Bill 463.
All right, so again, I'm here today, again, for the record, Gregory Morgan, Commissioner of the Division of Occupational Professional Licensing, Maryland Department of Labor. I'm here today to ask this committee for a favorable report for House Bill 463, which is the sunset extension of Maryland Board of Architects. The board licenses and regulates 7,704 individuals who provide architectural services pursuant to the provisions of Business Occupations and Professions articles established for this board. The board remains committed to accomplishing its objective of ensuring industry compliance with Maryland law, as well as local building codes, permit requirements for architectural services, and generally promoting a safe and sound residential and commercial construction industry. The board continuously works with industry organizations, members of the state legislature, to improve and simplify the path to licensure while maintaining the integrity of licensing standards set forth by the statute and corresponding regulations. For these reasons, the department respectfully requests a favorable report from the committee on House Bill 463.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Any questions for Mr. Morgan? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We do have Mr. Thomas, also from the Department of Labor. Zvi Thomas, you there? There you go, sir. Okay, you've got 2 minutes also to weigh in on House Bill 463 as well, okay?
Good afternoon, members of the committee, and thank you, Delegate Johnson, for presenting this bid on behalf of the Board of Architects. My name is Zvi Thomas. I'm the Executive Director for the Board of Architects. And as Commissioner Morgan mentioned, we have over 15,000 licensed architects and about 2,400 firms, including limited liability corporations, LLCs, and partnerships. So we regulate the firms and also individual licensees. And we would like to have this bill to be placed in line with the other professional design practitioners that we have, along with the landscape architects, interior designers who also have a 10-year extension on their sunset. So we're requesting respectfully for an extension and in support of this bill. Architects, as you know, provide support to the built environment, and this has repercussions for the built environment in Maryland in general, along with the construction industry and other design disciplines. For that reason, we're requesting favorable support in the bill, HB 463. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Vice Chair Kagan has a question for you.
Mr. Thomas. Oh, I'm not there yet. There we go.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey,
Hi.
okay, you got me now. Can you please tell us anything specific that the Board of Architects will not be able to do with a 5-year sunset extension that you could only do in a 10-year extension? Is there any other services, oversight, membership, approval, anything specific that you'd be unable to do?
The design boards, the architects operate under the umbrella of a design boards. So there's matters that are referred to as overlapping practice. And so in matters of interior designers, landscape architects, the board, in terms of their the structure of the joint chairs and the way it's financed depend on boards being on a 10-year sunset.
Okay,
So
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm hearing that as a no. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions for the witness? Okay, I think that, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 463, and that concludes our bill hearings for today. Yes, Senator Cardoza.
I just wanted to do an introduction. We've been joined by Delegate Rachel Munoz, who is in the back with her son Luke, and she's just come over to visit with us today.
Just stand up. I can't even see you back there. Oh, okay, there you are. Okay. Very good. Welcome. So folks, just before we adjourn for the day, this is, we're not voting today. I think what is contemplated for the